Welcome to today's webinar event. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. It's promptly 11:30 Eastern Time here, so we're going to get started here. We're here today to talk about Church Windows accounting and end-of-year cleanup ideas. It's not necessarily just accounting. I think there's some payroll in here as well. If you don't own the Church Windows payroll module, please just disregard this portion of that when we get to that. We're again accounting end of year cleanup with a little tiny bit of payroll. Before we get started on that, a few technical things. Click the little red arrow on the sidebar of your control panel. That minimizes the webinar control panel. This is particularly important if you have a single monitor setup. If you've got a dual monitor setup, you can just drag that off to your second desktop, get that out of the way. It allows you to get the full visual effect of the presentation today. The event is being recorded today. The recording will be produced here sometime in the next day or two, and it will be out on our support center page here sometime, as soon as possible, humanly possible thereafter, after it's posted or produced. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those. I really am pretty good about repeating those questions for everyone's benefit, and then we'll see what we can do to get those answered. If it's a question that is more personalized to your particular database or your setup or structure, I may not be able to answer it on the webinar event. I may ask you to contact me through support. So I can get more questions answered about what I need to know about your setup, your chart of accounts, what have you, to get those answered. It's not because I can't answer the question, or it's not because I don't want to answer the question. I simply can't without more information, okay? Please keep the questions on topic, meaning, kind of about our accounting, end of year, new year setup, changing things, reworking things. Just as a reminder for folks, this event is set up for a 30-minute event, not in our typical 20-minute event, just simply because there are a lot of things that we are going to be covering and talking about here. So we've added on a little bit more cushion in terms of the time allotted for this event. So if you can only are here for 20 minutes and you weren't aware of that, again, please be aware that the event is 30 minutes, not 20 minutes today. You can always revisit the recording later. Finally, before we get started, the primary basis for this particular event are taken from our 2019 December Tech Tips. So if that was just put out there today, so it talks about December 2019 Tech Tips, and right here in this section, let me introduce my highlighter friend here, is taken from this particular section of the December Tech Tips. Now, I'm not going to be talking about donations, cleanup, or printing blank data entry form for membership, but basically all these other 4 items right here we're going to be talking about, and anything that kind of comes to mind for me here as we're discussing this stuff, okay? So just an FYI, we weren't able to attach the handout to the event today. You can go right to the website, churchwindows.com, download that. These are actual live links. So when you download the PDF file, you open it on your machine, you should be able to click on each one of these and it should take you right to the URL with either the video or the document or what have you, okay? We apologize. We weren't, again, the document was just put out there today and I'd already had the room open and therefore we weren't able to attach it as a PDF file, but you can go right to the website and get that, okay? So again, it's under supporting, and right here, Tech Tip newsletters, and December 2019 will be right there at the top. I'm going to go ahead and leave this page open here because I want to make sure we're referencing some of this. You know what I mean? So if I go down here and I click on to say reworking your chart of accounts, it should open us up to the video that we have on, chart of accounts or accounting chart of accounts revisions. It was done back in, say, I think 2017, but frankly, the topic has not, what's covered in that simply is not changed. Okay, so it's still the same now. Okay. All right, so let's talk about some of this stuff now. Okay, so we're working primarily in accounting. So the first and foremost thing to understand about it is, certainly while there's a lot of flexibility in Church Windows and accounting in, say, our 2019 accounting year, that's the year that we're in right now, the year that we're working in based on that. Typically when the new year is opened, in this case 2020, okay, that is oftentimes a really good time to make some changes and revisions and updates and, you know, restructuring your chart of accounts and what have you, because we don't have transactions entered at that point. Okay, so for certainly things like income and expense accounts, as soon as we open that new year, the reworking of the chart of accounts is generally most flexibility is at that particular point, because we've not entered any entries. Now, it doesn't mean we do have balance sheet totals which are brought forward. Okay, so you know, sometimes those assets, liabilities, changes to those can be sometimes maybe a little bit, you know, more difficult. We can't delete accounts with balances, what have you. But usually, as soon as we open the new year, that's the best time to rework our chart of accounts. So I've gone ahead and opened my 2020 accounting year, but I've been back working in 2019. Okay, so we're not going to be covering the accounting end of year procedure today. Because we do have a video out on there. We did that. I think I did that a couple of weeks ago. There's one out there on the website now if you're wanting to open that. But when I do want to toggle back and forth between my accounting years, I simply go up to Special Functions, Manage Years, choose Change to another existing accounting year. Notice it wants to move forward into 2020 automatically. Okay? So it's important to understand, of course, that I can't do anything in my 2020 accounting year without that year being open. Okay, doesn't matter whether I'm reworking the chart of accounts or deleting accounts, entering my budget figures for the new year. Anything I want to do in 2020 can't be done if that year doesn't exist. So I'm now going to change my year back to 2020, and we now notice that the opening screen now does show January through December 2020 here. Okay, so now, yes, I can go in and do things and rework my chart of accounts, and that's only affecting my 2020 chart of accounts. It's not doing anything to change anything in 2019 or earlier. Okay, so whether that means you're going to go into, you know, manage accounts and subtotals, you know, and rework your subtotals, you know, you decide what it is you want to change in your chart of accounts. Okay, Church Windows doesn't decide that. You have to determine that based on you know what you're hearing from the readers of your reports, you know, changes that folks are requesting from like trustees or board members, you know, or board or your finance committee. You know, typically we're going to be making changes based on what those folks and the feedback we're getting from those folks, you know, or grumblings as the case may be if they're unhappy with it. But they've got to be able to articulate what it is, what isn't working. Okay, so just to kind of touch on it briefly here, you know, if all you're wanting, you know, so again, sorry folks, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here. Let's just remind folks that changes can be made to account numbers and account names pretty much at any time, whether there are transactions posted or not. Okay, so if I come into my 2020 year and I go, oh, I want to just change an account name, I can just click right here under my chart of accounts and notice that my pension payable, you know, if I won't go, okay, I want to take it off and change it from pension payable and change it to pension liability. Notice it's just allowing me to do it right here. Okay, at my chart of accounts. I can actually do the same thing with my account numbers. I can change them right here. Changing account numbers to another available account number is permissible in Church Windows accounting at any time. It doesn't matter whether there are transactions posted to that account or not. Okay. It wouldn't matter in this case whether whether there had been transactions posted to these accounts in 2019 or 2020. If the account number I'm wanting to change in account number 2 is not already being used by or occupied by another account number, I can change that account number at any time. So I can do it right here by just simply editing the account number. So if I go, okay, I want to make that 131. Sorry, I should have been 131, and I change that right there. Notice it's changing that number. Okay, again, the availability of the number is what's key, not whether there are transactions posted to the account. I go, oh, I didn't mean to change that to 131. I just changed it back to 30, and there I am back to the 210, 130. Okay, no save required in this case. You can also go to your tree view tab, and you can right-click over accounts and do choose edit. And the nice thing about the edit function on the chart of accounts here is it allows me to change the account name, the account number, or the subtotal to which that or where that account falls in terms of its subtotal. Okay. The other thing you might want to consider is when you're going into your new year, as we go up to special functions, you do have the option right up here at the very top called change account number structure. This simply opens the renumber chart of accounts window, so it prompts us that we have exclusive access to this screen while it's open. So then when I click OK on that, it shows my column here. It says my account number before renumbering right here. And then over here to the right, it says account number after renumbering. This is particularly useful and helpful screen when I'm making a change to a large number of accounts at one time. However, once I do change that, there is a save button up here in the upper right that I do need to click in order for it to actually save or preserve my changes to that. Okay. So it depends. How many accounts do you want to change? Are you wanting to change a lot of them, or are you wanting to edit or enter or change just a few? You know, you could just change a few here at the renumber chart of accounts window. Okay. This is also the window where you would click the change structure button here in the upper right if you were going to say, you were saying, okay, my account numbers last year didn't have enough account numbers in them. I need to add some more digits into those. You would just do the change structure, edit the account definition here and click OK. And then all it does is add in trailing zeros and decimal points to there depending on the changes that you're making. Okay. Just a reminder, folks, it's easier to add and lengthen account numbers rather than shorten account numbers, because when you're taking numbers off, there could be some conflicts that are generated by that. So FYI. Okay, I have a question coming in. What happens to the posted transactions if an account number is changed? Great question. Even nothing. The account number just changes. It's still the same account. It's just got a different number associated with it. That's all. Good question. Yeah, again, folks, I'm in 2020. Okay. Don't forget, again, this is just a good time to do this. And again, don't forget, we've got under our special functions and manage years. We also have our delete unused accounts function. Okay. So that is something which I think is often underutilized. So if I go into delete unused accounts, it's going to show me the accounts that are eligible for deletion in 2020. And again, we've got a video and a video out on our website about deleting accounts and deleting accounting years. Okay, so you can just come in here and just put a check mark, and notice you've got every account ranging from expenses and income to liabilities and vendors and assets. Every account in the software, in the chart of accounts that the system sees as eligible for deletion are here. This is the quickest and easiest place to delete a bunch of accounts simultaneously. Okay. Again, and the important thing to understand about this is there is no audit history in the 2020 accounting year that we have to be concerned about. If the account has a balance or has a transaction, it's not going to be in this list. So if you delete an account by mistake, all you need to do is just add it back to the chart of accounts. Okay. But you can, and it'll literally, and one of the nice things I like to point out about this screen is, notice it says last used. So there's a column header here called last used, and it shows you the date that that account was last used, if ever. Okay. Again, a frequently underutilized and underused function in the software. Okay. Okay. Delete unused accounts. It's really an important feature in the software that I think is often underused by folks. Okay, got lots of questions coming in here. If you add more numbers, would that help reduce the subtotals? Okay, I'm not sure it would actually reduce the subtotals. In fact, it would probably increase them, Chris. I'm not sure what that question, what you're kind of getting to on that. Would it help to reduce the subtotals showing in financial reports? If you add more numbers, okay, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, that's a question you might need to call me on support on. I'm sorry. Next question. Can you delete an unused account with a negative balance? No, Susan, that would still qualify as a balance. It's not, positive or negative. An account with anything other than a zero with the balance has to be dealt with. 2, can you sort this by type? Sure. Click on the type column up there on there, Debbie, and sure enough, it's sorting it by the account type ranging from asset, liability, income, expense, what have you. Good question. Okay. Again, folks, just kind of pointing you to some things and places in the software where you can go in and do things, in the new year that maybe you've not been utilizing before. Next topic is entering and reworking your budget. Once the 2020 year budget is open, I can now go up to budgets here in budget, and I can either key in the budget if I didn't carry it over from the prior year, or I can add new budgets. So if I go, oh, loose offering income wasn't budgeted last year and in prior years, but I want it to be budgeted for this year, I'm talking about this account right here. I now just put a check mark in the budget box. It now opens up a location here on the right, and I can go, okay, I'm going to budget $1,800 for loose offering income. And then I hit my tab key, and notice it's now auto-distributing that across both quarterly and monthly. And I can go in and edit any one of these figures. I can also go down and I can edit the individual budget for any other existing budgeted account if I wish. Okay. Also, yeah, we do have a video out on the website that's dedicated exclusively to entering and recording and setting up the New Year's budget. Again, you'll find that on the link to that on that page. So it would be right here, down here, the one that says enter and rework your budget. So when we click on that, it opens up our budget that was done earlier in September this year. I probably actually did that at a webinar event. If you're wanting to learn more about working with the budget, you'll click that link in there. Okay. Okay. So let's go down to the third topic on our document there that talks about cleaning up vendors with a balance. Okay. So what we're really talking about here, and I'm going to have to go back to 2019 to show that because they're still going to show up here. But if I go back to Special Functions Managed Years and I go back to 19, what we're talking about here is right here under Pay Bills, Quick Pay, and View Vendors with a Balance, or View Outstanding Bills. It doesn't matter which one it is, okay? So when I go into View Vendors with a Balance, these are vendors with a balance in 2019 that are just going to carry forward into 2020 and until they're dealt with, and they'll just carry forward into upcoming and future accounting years until I decide what we're going to do with those, okay? I mean, again, and you kind of have to look into each. It's kind of a forensic bookkeeping or accounting issue at that point to find out why that vendor is still showing up a balance. Also, is the vendor balance somehow tied to any outstanding bills that we may have showing up here, okay? So again, when we go back to the document on there, cleaning up vendors with a balance, it's now taking us to a document that says paid bills still listed under Quick Pay View Outstanding Bills, okay? Because again, we could be dealing with or talking about multiple problems here. And what I mean by that is when we're looking at our View Outstanding Bills list, we notice here that for American Electric Power, we've got a bill dated March 28th for $1,024, but that's not what the account balance is. So I've got to look into American Electric Power and find out, one, why there's a balance, and two, why is the amount due different than that? Well, what I know for sure is that the amount due on the bill is the 1024.36 that I entered on 328. The balance of the $80 is probably a different question, okay? So I have to look into that, all right? So what I need to do now is I want to go in and run either a general ledger or look at, American Electric Power to see if it can find out some more information for me. So if I go in here and I go to American Electric Power and I go to the Balance tab, we clearly see the balance of $80 was brought forward from a prior year. It was brought forward in the beginning balance. So that was a problem that was brought forward from, say, 2018. Maybe I don't want to go back into 2018 and do anything about that, okay? Maybe I want to deal with it all in December of 2019. Maybe I don't care. Maybe I just need to get rid of the balance, okay? But the bill for the 1024 is a different problem, okay? And again, that's all covered under this document under View Outstanding Bills. Basically what I need to do is I have to go back in and find that bill on March 28th for American Electric Power. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to Clear All, Bills, Show Unpaid, and click OK. And there's my Electric Power bill for 1028 right there. There's my other one for Christian Bible Supplies, but it's transaction number 71. It's been paid. I know that because my balance was essentially zero other than the $80. So I highlight it, click Correct. I click Mark as Paid. I find the bill dated March 28th. There it is for the 1024. Click OK and Save Corrections. And I've dealt with one of those problems. Okay? So if I now go back to Pay Bills, Quick Pay, and View Outstanding the Bills, the one for American Electric Power is no longer there. But when I go back to Quick Pay and View Vendors with a balance, sure enough, they still have an $80 balance. Again, two different problems. Bill carried over, or balance carried over from a prior year versus a bill that's been paid that simply needs to be marked as paid to tie it back to its payment. Okay? You have to decide how these problems are going to be dealt with. In this case, the bill was fairly simple to clear out, but the $80 problem becomes different. Maybe all I want to do now is just go up to transactions, other, just do a journal entry, and I want to post a transaction as of, say, December 31st of 19 or today, for that matter, that just debits American Electric Power, by the $80 and moves that balance back to my general fund to be used for something else, okay? It could be that simple, all right? But again, folks, these are forensic bookkeeping and accounting issues that many times you'll have to decide how you want to fix those. Okay. Well, now that I've recorded this journal entry, click Done, Add to Batch. If I go up to my Show Running Balance up here, we now notice that AEP is now adjusted balance is zero, and my general operating fund balance has been increased by that $80. Okay, so that's having the desired transaction effect that I'm wanting. I would now go ahead and post that. Okay. So now when I go back to my Pay Bills and I go to Quick Pay and View Vendors with a balance, American Electric Power is no longer there, okay? Now I can safely update my beginning balances for 2020, and that balance for AEP will not be brought forward, and there will be no outstanding bills. Folks, I can't stress this enough, and this is really the most important part about this. If you use the hard close function in Church Windows Accounting and you intend on closing 2019 using the hard close function, don't do it until you clear out these problems, okay? Because if you close the 2019 accounting year and there are vendors with a balance or outstanding bills that were posted in the prior year that are not dealt with, that year's closed. It's a done deal, okay? The prior year cannot be reopened. You have to deal with it then in 2020. So definitely don't use the hard close function in the software until you deal with these outstanding bills or vendors with a balance issues. There are certainly balances that I would expect to carry forward, like my mortgage balance, okay, if it wasn't paid. Or if I had bills that were entered in December that wouldn't be paid, or balances in December that wouldn't be paid until January. Great, no problem. Don't worry about those. But if there are any in here that need to be dealt with, you want to deal with that before closing the year, okay? And again, on the please review the document that's on this paid bills still listed under Quick Pay View Outstanding Bills or vendors with a balance, okay? What we're basically saying is there's information out here on the website that can answer virtually all of these questions for you already, okay? Another question, doesn't a direct entry to the general fund make you out of balance on the balance sheet? Winnie, that's a difficult question to answer succinctly, but it depends on the structure and the design of your chart of accounts. It could, but again, then it becomes important. Then you determine why the vendor still has the balance. So, you know, it could be that your fund is out of balance with that balance still sitting in the vendor. It kind of has to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. Good question. Why vendors with a balanced crop walk shows an account number and others do not? Well, Eva, we've just happened to set up our pass-through liability accounts as separate liabilities as opposed to vendors. They could be in a vendor. It could be set up as a vendor without an account number too. That's just how we've constructed our chart of accounts. Another question, why would you ever hard close a year? What is the advantage of a hard close? Yeah, Douglas, that's a good question. It's preferential for each church. It's not a requirement in the software. I'd recommend looking at the video or the document on the website about closing years. Good question. All right, folks, so before I finally get back to our questions under our downloads here, or under our document, I want to talk a little bit about our printing W-2s for review. And that's really shifting over to payroll at this point. If you don't own Church Windows Payroll and you'd like to leave the webinar event, by all means, you may certainly do so. But you know what we're talking about here is we don't have Payroll 2020 installed yet, folks. And so what that's meaning is that you can still go in and look at your W-2s for 2019 even though they don't have the correct year on them. You know, so you can go in and begin working on getting those issues that might be coming up when you do need to print your W-2s now. So when you go into tax reports and W-2 forms and we check all of our employees and we go to next and we're just going to look at the file copy, this allows us to look at the W-2s with the 2019 data even though the year on them is not updated based on our Payroll 2020 version not being installed. It's still going to show the form year as 2018. Don't worry about that. What you're trying to do is go in and look at these and see if they're actual print ready for when the forms are actually installed with the new payroll update. Okay? So go in and look at those. You can always go in and begin calculating payroll adjustments now in order to make those corrections. Again, don't wait. There's no need to. Okay? All you're doing is preparing for getting ready for the new year for when you actually do need to print those actual W-2 forms when it comes time. And again, you can go in and look at the calculate adjustment function or video out on the website or documents that are out there on the website for when you're wanting to make those corrections and adjustments to the payroll to get ready for those when that occurs, when that time comes. Okay? So go in and print them. Disregard the year. You're just looking at them and going, hey, yeah, these forms, the totals look right on this. If they don't, you can begin looking at trying to get those W-2 corrections and adjustments posted now so you're not behind the 8 ball when you get to January. Okay? All right, we've got about a minute left here, folks. Let me go ahead and see what other questions we've got here. Let's see. When I checked view outstanding bills, there were 3 from 2012, and the vendor says account no longer exists. Is there a way to find out whether you guys... Honestly, Bridget, that's a good question, but that's one you'll have to call us on support. That's specific to your data. Please call us 800-533-5227. Ask to speak with myself, or just enter a general accounting call with a brief description of what that is. One of our accounting folks will be happy to talk with you and help you out with that for sure. So. All right, I'll give folks, that is our topic for the day.